So good morning, everyone. Just a couple of quick reminders. Please mute your connection unless you're speaking. We'll mute connections as needed to prevent extraneous noise on the call. So don't feel, hopefully that doesn't feel like we're being rude if we mute your connection. If you have questions, please go ahead and post them to the chat, including to whom they are directed if they're intended for a specific presenter from today's group. And we'll try to ask one or two questions between speakers as long as the timing is not getting out of hand. But we want to make sure that all of our guest presenters have their opportunity. We'll also, and then with whatever time we have left after everyone finishes their presentations, we'll do questions at that point. And at that point, if you can also raise your hand and we can call on you and you can ask your question yourself rather than having to type it into the chat box if that's your preference. So also just try to please keep your questions as succinct as possible to just facilitate the discussion. And as always, please keep all comments and questions appropriate to the forum. Let me get to my other page here. So today, our presenters are Valerie Bellson from the Zuni Public Library, and she was one of the members, graduates of our first ever out of school time Leadership Institute cohort a couple of years ago. So it's she's been very active with the network, and it'll be great to have her. And then we have Janice Kowemy from the Laguna Public Library, and then Flo Trujillo from the Farmington Public Library. And although she's retired, she's probably busier than most of us. And we have Jackie Thornton. And Jackie, I apologize, we were calling you Thornton earlier on the website, but we've got that fixed now, who is the main club unit director at the Boys and Girls Club of Farmington. And then we have Katie Doyle and Heidi Heidgerken, who are instructional coordinators with the Wonders on Wheels program. So let's see now, has Valerie shown up? I was gonna have her go first. Valerie, are you on the call?
Yeah, she's on the call.
Oh, okay.
Yes. Yes.
All right.
I got nervous. I got kicked out and please, where should I go? So I am here now.
Oh, excellent. Okay. All right. Yeah, it's saying that your network bandwidth is low. So hopefully we won't miss, you won't freeze up or drop on us. But if you want to go ahead and begin your presentation, Valerie, as I said, is a citizen and member of the Zuni Pueblo. Her clans are Sandhill Crane and Child of the Eagle clan. In 2019, she started working as the Children's Program Coordinator for the Zuni Public Library. And she is passionate about and continues to be a voice and an advocate for children and families.
Thank you, Jeff. Keshi, good morning. My name is Valerie. I'm a mom of two mid-schoolers, Claire, who's in 6th grade, and Jacob, who's in 7th. And when I started out thinking what I wanted as a career, I wanted to be an English teacher. And I finally been a career. It's going on 2 years now, 2018. I got my first full-time paid job. Prior to that, I've been a PTO mom and a straight up volunteer within my community. And I did eventually, I think, become a teacher. I'm an educator at the public library with the children's program. And my job entails, in my job description, it entails building up literacy, language, and parent involvement. So my time is the Leadership Institute that they have founded. I got hired in May of 2019, and my director, Jennifer, gave me this packet information saying, maybe you should try this, maybe it'll help you figure out what you want to do with the program. So all I can say is this has been one of the most beneficial learning times I've had to form what I feel I should be doing at the library and to focus on leadership. So as I started participating with the leadership program, 3 things that resonated with NMOST's philosophy and training was that A, we're a safe space for children and families. B, our programming in the library setting or after school programming anywhere is to be able to have the capacity to create leadership skills in our littles. And C, I would say, pretty much do what you're asking your kids to. And that's been pretty much the 3 guidelines I focus on at our library. Our library has been around since 1940. It's housed in an old building. It's a housing unit before for doctors and BIA staff. And it's a safe space. I walk to work. It's across the street from where I live. So that's a really awesome thing. And we offer services, computers. Our patrons can license, work related. Right now, 2 of our staff are working with other preparers for New Mexico tax help. As I was reviewing and trying to put together my words, first I was like 15 minutes. Oh my goodness. Hello?
Valerie, this is mine. I'm going to recommend that you turn your camera off. Maybe you'll be coming through easier because you're freezing up.
Okay. ¿Me escuchan? Sí. Okay.
Valerie, can you hear us?
I'm on again. I did get cut off. Okay, I'm sorry about that. So, with that said, when I jumped into this job, the first big event that we planned was the summer reading program. We had 14 students participate, and it was the universe of stories. And I ended up having a summer worker. And this, hello, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. I turned off your video because sometimes that helps when the bandwidth is low.
Okay, all right.
Just to see how that goes with keeping your audio clear.
All right, so anyways, we started the summer reading program and we had 14 students and I had a summer youth helper. And we started creating a public writing wall. So we asked, what's this universe of stories? What does books mean to you? And that pretty much built up. We had great attendance for our summer program. Besides us offering programming, Explora came to Zuni 3 times. The New Mexico Museum of Space came, and so did Science Girls Lab. And that was really exciting. I realized that science was a weakness. So my 5th grader at the time was teaching me coding and how to figure out planets. She helped me draw posters of planets. And then within that programming, there was illustrations of children with disabilities. So without really consciously being aware, that became a message for the programming I was doing. My worker was a student who has disabilities. She graduated from high school. So she was trying to transition into college. So the opportunities she had was to facilitate and be in attendance with the kids. So right now, my worker, she's completing her 2nd semester of college at CP, and she always goes back to the time she spent working with us, because part of what I would have her do was reflect. And I think that's a skill and an activity libraries should provide, is an opportunity for writing and reflecting. So that's what our community board entails. And so with that, we move on. And then in October, after my and NMS and MP, it was always after our sessions, collaborate like crazy, collaborate like crazy. So I was actually surprised that I was going through preparing in this short year and a half, I actually collaborated with over 19 organizations within Zuni and McKinley County. And there were community groups here and community groups in McKinley County who I collaborated with. And so I was like surprised that that came about. So we started a book club, and our book club, Zuni Career Education Program, the family programming unit part. We ended up having January, and 11 students completed this program.
Valerie,
Yes.
Just real quick, can you back up just a little
Yes.
bit? You dropped out. You said we ended up having, and then it cut out for a minute.
Okay, you guys need to be quiet. We had 16 students sign up. We ended up having 11 students complete the program. Can you hear me now?
Yes. Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, and so with my partners, Cassie Homer and Lachey Harris, we came up with the goals that we wanted our kiddos to be comfortable reading out loud. We gave them experiences of leaving Zuni to go to Albuquerque and to Santa Fe. So with that, it was like, you know, their manners, you're representing our community. That message was there. And then again, feeling comfortable writing a sentence to describing the literature. And again, without realizing it, we ended up having 3 parents call directly wanting their child to participate and stating that their child had a learning disability. So without being obvious, the kids would know which child couldn't read, didn't have reading skills. So they would, when we would read out loud, they would skip over that person, or they would say, oh, it doesn't have to be your turn, I'll read for you. So it became that way. And then when we would break out into group sessions, group settings, that's when it was one-on-one, helping each child who was having difficulty reading, read out loud. And we were able to take them to Barnes and Noble in Albuquerque. So that was really a first experience of children being in a bookstore, and they were able to purchase whatever books or stuff they wanted at Barnes and Noble. Another highlight for us was taking them to Santa Fe for legislative sessions in 2019. We had an overnight trip for 2 days, and the kids prepared Zuni Public Library public kits with our needs. They created buttons, and they were able to visit all 9 of our McKinley County legislative leaders. They were also honored on the Senate floor by Senator Shannon Pinto of Crown Point. And then 2 of our students were pages for her. And again, this is another highlight. It was our students who had the learning disabilities and special needs. They were right there by her side. They were doing the things that she asked them. And one of the parents who came in attendance was just so grateful and thankful. And then she was like, I didn't know my daughter could talk Navajo. and Zuni and English, because she was doing all of that. And that was quite exciting. In all, we completed 3 chapter books with these kids. And with that, we had 3 learning tools. And Jeff said I could send him these things so that you can be able to see our guides. I have created one, benefits of being a Res Kids Book Club member, and then discussion questions, chapter analysis block page, where they could either fill in this block page with 1 word or sentences, whatever they felt comfortable with. And with our book club meetings, we always had a positive quote from author or a leader. So it was, again, building up leadership skills. So after we came back from Santa Fe, we asked the kids, do you want to design your own new logo? Are you going to come back when we offer book club? If you come back, are you going to be ready to lead the discussion, like with the questions we have? And all of them agreed that they wanted to come back and that they were ready to lead the group instead of us adults facilitating. And with that, building up literacy in about November of 2019, we were noticing a big crowd of mid-school kids coming in to the library on Fridays, half a day. They had their own tablets, telephones, or they were getting on the public computers. So what we asked them to do was we asked them to volunteer to read for 15 minutes before they could get on. And first they were like sort of not into it. And then we all started keeping track of the 15 minutes of reading, how many kids were reading, and then we would tally. So the week of February 10th through February 15th, you read 300 minutes, which equals 1.2 hours. It started building up. This weekly reading of volunteering started building up. We would post the little signs above the water fountain, at the entrance of the building, at the kids section, and at the free computer access section. And prior to shutting down before COVID, we were up to kiddos reading in total together 322 minutes for the week. So we had kiddos who were finishing up books and asking, what should I read next? And that was an opportunity to tell them that newspapers can be read, magazines could be read. There's this whole reference section over here for kids, you guys. Read a kid's encyclopedia or just other things besides a chapter book. And that's where we were starting to ask them, what books do you want in the library? What collections would we want? So they were actually getting that space to be comfortable to offer titles. Or do you have this, like the I Survive ones, the anime is getting popular down here. So that was really exciting for me to feel, because from this time I was wondering, am I allowing them? Are they comfortable around me? Are they gonna ask me for things? And it started that they wanted to ask for things. And so it made me feel very, very warm and good that they felt safe enough to be around me. And I think the safety issue and factor, that's what I always want our library to feel like. And you do notice that some, like the same kids will come in. They'll come in at the same time and leave at the same time. And you notice some that will bring in water bottles to fill up to take home. Or you'll notice some that will one person will be bringing the snacks to share with everybody else. So it became evident that, I'm sure all of you will agree, that libraries are that safe spot. And sometimes that's a place where snacks are given if you can, and the kids are appreciative. And And we have always a weekly movie day for kids and families, and we pop popcorn. And I have to say, that's one of my most favorite parts of my job. I love getting ready for Fridays and popping popcorn and bag it, and kids just waiting at the door. Are you almost done? Can I help you fill it up? Give out the popcorn. And that's just one of my most favorite parts of my job. And of course, eating the popcorn. And so that was all pre-COVID. So when COVID struck, well, with that, we were in Santa Fe, and that's when the news was starting to come out about COVID being in China. And our kids were like, COVID. And I'm so glad it's not here yet. And, you know, they were in that mode of being activists. So they were like saying it was Trump already. And we're like, no, it wasn't Trump. And then in that work mode, they learned that what they were doing in Santa Fe was leading when they were chasing after our representatives to give them our library back. And I didn't tell them, you're going to be waking up at 7:30 in the morning, just like school. And we get on the bus shuttle and we're at the roundhouse, and they're like, it's so crowded. Yes, it is, you know. And so they would go to the offices, and then each of them got a chance to say, my name is, and give the bag. And as we were there, they were doing that for 2 days in a row. And then when we were driving home back to Zuni, they were so tired, but there was a big sigh from one of our male participants. And I was like, why are you sighing? Are you homesick? He was like, no, I want to go back to work tomorrow. So he was like sad we were going back home because he wanted to be back at the roundhouse. So you would do this? He said, yes, I would. Yes, I would. So this is an experience that I'm so thankful they had. And the collaboration for that came from Strong Families New Mexico. I've been involved with Strong Families New Mexico for going on 5 years now. And we focus on family-oriented legislative issues. And so we go and we're able to lobby for day as a big group. So this organization funded our trip to Santa Fe. They paid for the motels, they paid for the mileage, they paid for the meals, like everything. That even the parents, we had 2 parents who followed with me, and they were able to get travel stipends to go there. So that's how Strong Families has been connected with me prior to working with the library. And again, a library is a space of information. So we share what we learn with Strong Families. This year, it was social justice, the immigrant bill to give funding for COVID treatment and testing, various issues like that. So when we came back, it was just a few weeks before we eventually shutting down to COVID. And at that time, we had a whole week of spring break activities with Explora for autism spectrum kids and families. We had our Zuni Healthy Lifestyles coming to do games and physical activity. And we had a reader coming in. So we were in full swing and plan. And we were planning book giveaway with the Zuni Public School District, book bags for all age levels, new books that they would be getting. And with this, our kids knew Easter was coming. So they had asked if they could plan Easter at the library. They asked if they could have a movie, an art activity, and an Easter egg hunt. So that was totally validating to me, because they felt that they could be the one to plan the activity, that they weren't waiting for us programmers to do it. They had their movie picked out. They had like, we want so many eggs, and you know, they were ready to do Easter. And Unfortunately, we did close the week of spring break. All of the Pueblo of Zuni shut down for spring, all programming shut down. And with that, summer reading program shut down. And this summer reading program, this year's theme was Imagine Your Journey. And I was like, oh, we could be doing so much. So with that, I ended up being able to collaborate again with public distributions. And with this, our library helped make history for our Pueblo. In August, we did the summer reading program stuff. And then we also did a voter registration drive with NAVA, the Native American Voters Action Group. And then in September, we collaborated again, and this time it was a census drive. And with that, our Pueblo was able to record 53% plus for census for 2020. And we collaborated with McKinley Mutual Aid, who brought dry food boxes and hand sanitation kits for families to pick up. We provided snacks, and that was with donations from the Setter Group, from NAVA, and also from a community member who lived in Albuquerque who wanted to have snacks for kids. So we drove out to Albuquerque to pick all those up. And then in November, we collaborated again, and this time it was for elections. We had an on-site registrar, and we made sure our Pueblo members knew that we were a split district, and we made history. We helped make history again. We ended up having the most voter turnout since Zuni could be able to vote in voting. We had over, I believe, 5,000 voters, and that's like the most ever. So again, with that part, the message was parents, adults, you're the leaders. Your kids are watching if you're gonna vote or not. Make that choice to vote. And another message was high school students, you are able to vote. Go out and vote. So this collaboration work was with my sister Sherry. She worked with the NAVA organization as a youth organizer. So we were able to be change makers. The youth were the ones driving the elders to the polls. We also had 2 drivers driving the elders to the polls. And with the groups we collaborated with, we were able to have hand sanitizer, gloves, and face masks to give if they didn't. I don't have that. Well, now you do. So that's how we were able to, give that space. I go to my Ashiwi core values, and one of them is home tehwanillapa or tehwanilli. You have that space. So I think, again, that's been my guide. And
Hey, Valerie?
yes.
Yeah, we've got several other presenters. Could you kind of wrap it up in just a minute or two?
Sure. I'll wrap it up by reading you a poem I wrote so you can get a sense of where I'm from and what I do for my kids and family. This is I am from red sand smelling osti after a rainfall. I just want to grab a handful to eat. The Zuni men singing prayers with our ancestors for planting, love, protection, and peace. The center of the world, the middle place, our Ashashinas, our ancestors were guided to. I am from Kearns, Riverton, Midvale, and Cedar City, Utah, Washington, D.C., where I grew in years and education. Hema Springs, where my life and journey as a mommy became a reality. Zuni, where my foundation and roots were planted in 1974. I am from Honiwichimanawa. We will love one another. We will be honest and trust one another. Ihatiawa, listen, Tonte Juan Illapa, Honte wanit uknawe. It is your turn. It is my turn. I am from Larry. Tachu, father. Aitala, Sita, mother. John and Lula Walela, Nana, Hota, maternal. Grover Avira Bellson, Nana, Wowo, paternal. Ella, thank you.
Thank you, Valerie. That was beautiful. Thank you for sharing that with us. I love all of the stuff that you're doing at the Zuni Library and how much your programs have grown and all that you've accomplished over these last 2 or 3 years. Just amazing stuff. And also, I think you've demonstrated exactly how the state needs to step up and fix our bandwidth issues in some parts of the state where there's not enough internet speed to support, solid video for a presentation like this. So if you wanted to turn your video back on, I just turned it off for a little while to try to conserve bandwidth. So. And I think we're going to go ahead and hold off on any questions until the end and move to our second presenter, who is Janice Kowemy. And Janice, let me find my sheet here. Janice is an experienced librarian with a demonstrated history of working on the library's industry. She is skilled in information retrieval, grant writing, higher education, community outreach, and editing. She's a strong professional with a master's degree focused in library and information science from the University of Texas at Austin. So Janice, please take it away.
Good morning, everybody. I have my presentation if I can do the screen share.
Great, we can see it now.
Okay, great. Okay. Good morning. My name is Janice Kowemy. I am the librarian at the Laguna Public Library. I've been here for about 13 years. I didn't realize it went by that fast, but I've been involved with tribal libraries since I graduated from high school in 2000, but that's for another story. I'll have to tell you guys later. I am from the Pueblo of Laguna. I did get my master's in information studies from the University of Texas at Austin. I have been very involved with leadership positions within the New Mexico Library Association, the Native American Library Special Interest Group, and then also the American Indian Library Association. Just a little bit on the background of, tribal libraries, and then kind of relating to how it relates to the House Memorial, the House Bill 85 and 86, which are currently in the legislation now. Back in 2009, the tribal libraries, there was a directive from the legislation for the Indian Affairs Committee and the New Mexico State Library to do a assessment of tribal library needs. So at that time, they came and put together a report about it, but tribal libraries didn't feel that it accurately reflected what our true library needs were. So tribal libraries went ahead and wrote a position paper, and some of the outcomes of what was really needed within tribal libraries were funding. That was the biggest thing. One was operational needs to include funding for staff salaries and utilities. A lot of the tribal libraries here in New Mexico are one-person libraries, or there's only 2 people. There's maybe like 1 or 2 libraries that has more than 4 people in their staff. So they're not able to provide a lot of the resources or be able to provide a lot of the programs and things like that way. And a lot of them have to depend on grants to pay for their salaries because some of their tribes are not paying for their operational needs too as well. The next one was library expansion and facilities upgrade. As Valerie had mentioned, the library in Zuni, they're in a building that needs to be badly expanded or a new library. So that's one of the reasons why we wanted to, that was one of the main needs. Here in Laguna, our needs are, we have a new building, but it's almost 21 years old now. And the front door, when it rains, the water comes through the front door, the ceilings are cracking, and just everything's kind of, after a building settles. So that's another thing that we're hoping to look toward. And of course, you saw with Valerie's internet, broadband internet is what is really needed within our communities. And with the COVID pandemic that happened, that's kind of where we really saw it, where we really saw that really digital divide and where we don't have that access here in the communities. Right now, a lot of the tribal libraries are offering basic library services, internet access, and programs. But due to the COVID-19 pandemic, a lot of them are still closed due to their community executive orders where they're not allowed to open to the public. But there's still a few that are offering curbside services, appointment onlys where they can just go in and do what they need to do and leave, and then also virtual programs. A little bit of history about the library legislation. So I had talked a little bit about House Memorial 59, that was back in 2009. So going off of that, we went to the 2011 Indian Affairs Committee meeting where a group of tribal libraries testified about the needs of tribal libraries, which were funding for operations and facilities and internet. So in 2014, we had a Tribal Libraries Institute where we talked a little bit about, you know, how do we get these needs met? What do we need to do now? What's our next step? So in 2019, along with the Santa Fe Leadership Institute and Regis Pecos and the Public Convocation on Education, tribal libraries got together to talk about what their ideal tribal library would be, what would your needs be, what would you have there, what kind of staffing, what kind of facilities. So that kind of put together the pieces of, you know, what we figured, what we found out we would be needing within our libraries. Then Yazzie Martinez versus the state of New Mexico had just passed. So that one kind of created the footstep for us to start, you know, looking into these programs, you know, how are we going to get the funding to meet the needs of the community? So currently we have House Bill 85, which is funding for programs to meet Native students' needs by expanding community-based education. So for tribal libraries, that meant that it would help us to expand our programming opportunities and also our staffing opportunities, where sometimes tribal libraries are have to rely on grants to keep their doors open. So this would help them by giving them the opportunity to get more funding where they don't have to rely on that grant, but to also have staff, you know, available, more staff to do programs, and then also a dedicated IT staff too as well. The next one is House Bill 86, which is funding for construction projects to straighten community-based education infrastructures. This is something that we've been working on for a long time. And it's something that's really badly needed within tribal libraries, like I said, to help with facility upgrades and renovations and even a new space. A lot of them are in buildings that were not meant to be libraries. So they're just buildings that they had just found, like Valerie had mentioned about being a housing for the hospital. So that's another thing that we're kind of looking toward and making sure that the tribal libraries have that infrastructure to provide what they need to do for the community. Some of the opportunities for New Mexico tribal libraries if we do get the funding from these two legislative pieces. Again, funding for programming, it would give us the opportunity for increased staffing so we could be able to hire more people to help provide our programs, to help run our programs. Like I said, we can get somebody to help with like Zuni's lucky to have Valerie as having the youth coordinator. So it'll be nice if we will be able to get something within our libraries like that way to focus just on programming. Again, so a lot of the tribal libraries have been tasked with the cultural keepers such as archives and museums. So it'll give us more opportunities to provide cultural and also STEM programming as well. Funding for facilities, again, bigger facilities to host programs, and also for COVID-19 safety. I know social distancing is what they're saying now, and a lot of our libraries are small, so we can't really, you know, social distancing isn't gonna really work here in our library, so we need to really look at that and make sure that we do have the spaces available. This is the picture on the side is what our new program design is for our library. So we're hoping to add on the multi-purpose room to help with, you know, providing more programming. When we have our programs here at the library, we have to close the building because we're at capacity already. So we're not able to provide regular library services during programs at sometimes, especially during our summer reading program. Also funding for internet. It will have increased virtual programming and access for the community. Like I had said, during this pandemic has shown our weaknesses in terms of internet access. So right now we're working with a variety of organizations within our community to make sure that the people in our community have access to internet. That way we're able to provide programs that they're able to access within the community. And then also increase access to technology resources. Some of us do circulate Wi-Fi hotspots and Chromebooks so that way people can utilize them that are not able to afford them. And just recently we had a Verizon tower put into the community end of last year. So now that's increased the capability of the Verizon tower, and we have hotspots that go off the Verizon network. So now a lot of people are able to utilize those hotspots within their villages without having to, you know, have a low connection and things like that way. And then also access to a dedicated IT person. A lot of tribal libraries do not have one dedicated IT person. It's mostly just the IT person for the whole tribe. So it'll be great if we were able to have something like that way, where tribal libraries can rely on, you know, throughout the year and have to answer the questions, help with E-rate, you know, all of these questions that we do have that, you know, that we're not familiar with, or we just don't have the time to, you know, work with. Just a little bit about my library. As Jeff had mentioned, I'm from the Laguna Public Library. I do have a staff of 3. We do like to get really involved within the community, go out and do things for, you know, outreach and being able to bring people back into the library to make sure that they know what resources we have there available. We just do offer the basic library services. One thing that when I first started working here was, how do we meet the needs of the community? Are we meeting the needs of community? And one of the things that people most often requested was to be open later in the evenings and on the weekends. So as of now, we're open from 8 to 6:30, and then on Saturdays from 9 to 2. That way it gives a chance for those that are working or are not able to come during the regular hours to come and visit the library. So we do offer the Wi-Fi hotspots, DVDs, and ebooks, and we have a big Native American collection. We do a lot of programming, which I'll get into later, and we're also trying to start a community archives for the Public Laguna. Some of the programs that we currently offer, summer reading program, that's our biggest program that we usually have. It's for 2 months. It's a daily program that we offer. Right now, because of the space that we have available in the library, we can only offer it to 35 kids at a time to come to the library. And it usually gets filled up right away. So it's really neat to, you know, kind of see people being able to, it's something that they look forward to. And I was really, really sad that we weren't able to provide it last year. We weren't able to do anything because the library was closed and all the kids were asking about it. When is it going to start? Can we do this? Can we do that? So we're really hoping to try to see if we can do it a virtual program this year, now that we kind of learn what other libraries are doing and what they have been doing for summer reading and the programs that are available. So we're hoping to get that started. Another thing that's coming up is the Read Across America, Dr. Seuss. We usually do a celebration for that. We do Head Start story time. The Head Start classes come over to the library and we read them a story and they do an activity. Lego Club, they do that. Family literacy nights, game nights, field trips, movie nights, and makerspace activities and food programs. I know we love food programs. They also do pancake day, and like Valerie said, we do popcorn and do all kinds of snacks. So it's a lot of fun. These are just some of the pictures of the activities we're doing. Summer reading, the public opera program. We went up to the Museum of Indian Arts and Culture to do a summer reading program they had for all tribal libraries in 2019. Game time, so we took a field trip to the zoo. We had a little group did collaborations with different programs here in the community. Easter egg hunt, the end of their program was going to the Isotopes game. We did a dinner with Santa, ugly sweater contest. And then we like to do Halloween, dressing up for Halloween and Christmas. And then we also like to provide outreach by being a part of our Laguna Feast Parade. So we always try to keep with the theme. This year we got first place for outstanding float. So it's a lot of fun just trying to get out into the community and make it fun for everybody. We do a lot of collaborations on Earth Day with the Environmental Department, Run and Walk with the Sports and Wellness, Easter egg hunt with the Fire Department, Dinner with Santa with all the programs. And then as far as tribal library-wide, we are involved with the Pueblo Opera program, the Museum of Indian Arts and Culture, Explora, and then Wonders on Wheels. So we do a lot of different collaborations, what we already do. Like I had mentioned, a lot of the tribal libraries are being tasked with archives and knowledge keepers. So right now, that's one thing that we're trying to get set up, is to make sure that this is available so that way we can provide the materials and also cultural programming such as storytelling. Last year in 2019, tribal libraries were gifted with distant learning material. They got a 72-inch TV and video. So this was through the Santa Fe Indian schools. So a lot of the libraries were, it was neat because we're able to do distance learning, virtual programs, and also language classes. So that's another thing that's allowing us the opportunity to do that for our communities. Interactive learning and also social programs. These are just some of the libraries that I wanted to highlight about some of the programs that they're currently doing. And it's neat because they've already started transitioning to be virtual. So Acoma Learning Center and Acoma Pueblo, they have a summer youth program that focuses strictly on cultural learning. They have programs throughout the year that focus on traditional arts and crafts, like the Stepping Stones program, online tapestry, belt weaving, and dressmaking. So they have the shoes and stuff like that way. And then last year they did a program where they did traditional planting and provided all the materials. These are some of the pictures that they have, they were able to do. And then Pueblo Vista Public Library, they have a really great summer youth program. It's always organized, and there's just all kind of things that they do. I love watching to see what they do. Junior reading program, skateboard program, and tutoring program for the kids after school. And these are, I guess, just their Tiny Tots program that they do, bringing yoga into the library. Jemez Pueblo Community Library, theirs is mostly focused on cultural storytelling. So they do a program called Stories from the Land, where they go back to their historic, what do you call it? Historic place where they come from. So they're able to do and teach the kids about their stories and their traditions and their language and stuff like that. And then those three libraries have Facebook pages. So if you're able to get on and follow them, I would highly recommend that, because they post a lot of, they're really active in social media. So they post a lot of what they're doing within their programs and offer a lot of ideas. Again, this is Jemez. They have a Wii, they have, puppets and stuff like that. So it's really cool. And then also Maureen, she reads books to the kids in their Toa language too as well. So it's really neat to kind of see that, what they're able to do. And that's pretty much it. There's so much to talk about, but I know I had to keep it down, limited. So if you guys have any questions, you're more than welcome to, ask me. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Janice. This is really, really good information. I also wanted to mention, I did drop into the chat links to the New Mexico legislative website, so that people, if they want to read the text of the HB 85 and 86, they can do that. And then also, just FYI, HB 85 is on the agenda for the House Appropriations and Finance Committee sometime this afternoon. It says the committee will start 15 minutes after the full House session adjourns. So we can't give you an exact time, but just FYI.
Okay, thank you.
Any other, we've got one other question, but I think it's appropriate to go to kind of everybody at the end. So I'm going to hold off on it. That came in the chat. Does anyone else have one or two quick questions for Janice? Okay. All right. And like I said, I've got at least one question that I think will be good for the whole group at the end. So our next presenter is Flo Trujillo, who recently retired from the Farmington Public Library. But as I mentioned earlier, I think she's probably busier than most of us, even in retirement. She's kind of famous for being just a ball of energy and getting an amazing amount of things done. And she has extensive experience creating partnerships throughout New Mexico with museums, arts, and schools. She has also facilitated partnerships with the New Mexico Hispanic Cultural Center for the first bilingual book festival, organized Four Corners Storytelling Festival, established the first Mayor's Teen Advisory Council in New Mexico, and Blended Zine. And she's also a member of the New Mexico Out of School Time Network's Leadership Council, and has been a very active contributor to that for a number of years. So let me turn it over now and take it away, Flo.
Thank you, Jeff. And it was so good to hear from Valerie and Zuni and Janice from Laguna. Wonderful partnerships. And I'd like, in a few minutes, I'll share something about our Shiprock Tribal Library. But I thought it was very important because we all share those common goals of how important after-school programs and how libraries are essential in our communities. One of the things that libraries and museums is a part of cultural affairs. So I'm glad to see all these bills out there. And cultural affairs needs to get funded as well, because education gets funded for after school, 21st Century gets funded. But I'm going to tell you a little bit about how we partner together with 21st community learning centers so that we as libraries can make our money grow a little bit more. And I noticed there were some people on this call too, on this virtual Zoom, which is what we've all been used to. And it's nice. I like to be able to see who's out there. So let me start a little bit first. Thank you, Jeff, for the wonderful introduction. But in 2009 and 2010, I was the first librarian that was selected by the After School, the After School Alliance, the national one in DC. And I recently retired as Youth Services Coordinator from the Farmington Public Library after 30 years. And at that time, I was the Boys and Girls Club Power Library Manager. I helped set that up with some grants. And Jackie, I'm sure we'll talk more about that and how they were in a Quonset hut at one time. And now we have a beautiful jewel in a Boys and Girls Club. We were actually one of only 2 in the nation that had a public library partnership. And so we received some wonderful prestigious awards. It was about that time back in 2000 when our president, Bill Clinton at the time, visited the Boys and Girls Clubs of the Navajo Nation. And the Farmington Public Library partnered with the Shiprock Boys and Girls Club to open a library there. So we qualified as a Shiprock, as a tribal library, and I was the manager of that until it closed in 2013. We learned a lot from that. In fact, when Bill Clinton was there, it was interesting that they were talking about the digital divide. And so this will make everybody laugh. That's how I'm dating myself. That was back then when we were dialing up. So it wasn't this wonderful Wi-Fi and broadband. It was a dial-up. In fact, on that day, we borrowed a line from the Shiprock Hospital that is across the street to hook up to the Boys Club in the library that was constructed and painted and set up within 2 weeks of knowing that Bill Clinton was coming, President Bill Clinton was coming. So, you know, you never know who's coming in your area. And when he did come, he had over 25,000 people that showed up in that area. And one of the things that he mentioned that I won't forget is that 37% of the households in the community were without electricity, and 70% are without phone service. So here we're talking about the importance of being able to dial up. So it was kind of an interesting conversation, I think, and he realized that when he got there. So there are challenges. I think Janice said it nicely, that they're very compressed everywhere, after school programs and libraries. I've been to many of them, and I've set up a couple of them as well. And Valerie saying how important it is to support these bills as well. So stating on that, last year I wanted to mention also that I was selected as the Library Outreach Advisor for the StarNet STEAM Equity Project with the American Library Association, and I'll be participating in that till 2024. And this is to help develop the culturally responsive programming and outreach to the Latinx community. We're focusing a lot on tweens and girls mostly, and but we are also offering through the STEM Equity and through StarNet some awards and some grants. In fact, I see that Breezy's on this call. And Breezy, I'm going to do a shout out to you. Congratulations on winning the award, or one of the StarNet awards for community conversation for the Anton Chico Public Library. So these are resources that that as an after school ambassador and also as a past librarian, that I like to be able to showcase across the state and invite libraries to participate. As Janice mentioned, money is always needed, and reaching out to those grants. It is good to do that, but sometimes when you do get the grant, where are you going to do it? Where are you going to put it? Especially now during COVID. Working with partners like StarNet, they will provide you with some expertise in the same way that we have some really strong partnerships with other cultural affairs in New Mexico. And it was mentioned about field trips and visiting, but I do want to do a shout out because I see that Deb and Kelly are on this call also. As a librarian in Farmington, I was able to partner with them, which was very unusual because the Smithsonian had not had a partnership where the library was partnering with the museum to do a presentation. So I was invited with a grant to attend a training out in the Smithsonian, which was wonderful, and present what we called Fossil Fiesta in New Mexico. I was happy to have Smithsonian come to Farmington, which was a first, and be in our library and not in our museum, and then be able to also co-partner over at the Museum of Natural History to provide Fossil Fiesta there. And I learned on how we can work together better, and we continue to do that as well. There is also a wonderful Explora who has just been wonderful to libraries in our virtual community and offering these free little libraries. And so I don't have PowerPoints, but I have lots of visuals. They have these wonderful activity cards, and they're in English and in Spanish. I'm working on trying to make one in English and in Navajo. So I'm working with our community to do that. And they present also these wonderful kits as take home. And I think currently you can talk to Tara Henderson or email her, or Allison. I think Allison might be on this call as well. There are always opportunities for librarians to participate and bring the classroom into the virtual classroom in STEM into the library as well. One of the things that Allison, that I helped participate in also was the New Mexico Science Fiesta with STEAM. So I appreciate Explora and the Museum of Natural History, Cultural Affairs, and being able to partner with all of them. Another partner that is very important that Janice mentioned was summer reading, and the summer reading program is organized by the New Mexico State Library. And last year, our New Mexico Out of School Time Network champion, Lieutenant Governor Javi Morales, was in charge and actually was our champion also to support the online summer reading program, and even offered some virtual story times. So this is always available online, and next year, or actually this year, Animals, Tales, and Tales is available online, and it's free. So you can log on books, and the kids in your after school programs or wherever we are, it's an opportunity to help with low literacy in New Mexico. And we have those numbers, and just visit the New Mexico Coalition of Literacy to find those. And we all know that when we write grants, where we lack and where we're standing in our education, especially now after COVID. Get those kids reading during the summertime. Another partner we had was Primetime Family Reading. This one was very important because we actually helped write the RFP with the 21st Century Community Learning Centers to present the 6 weeks program to 22 families at 2 elementary schools. We did this for 15 years when it first started. And the after school families meet for Primetime Family Literacy at the 21st Century site with the families that are registered. We provide a dinner snack. We offer them a bag of books, a wonderful bag of books that we try to model with them so they can read together as a family. And during that time, we also offer a story time, and we engage the families in the discussion of the humanities topics, similar to just asking something about the book, not on a comprehension level, but on a humanities level. And one of the things that we offer with that is also free daycare. So having the dinner snack and free daycare for the families brings them and engages them. It's one time a week for 6 weeks, and it can be written into your 21st Century Community Learning Center. And we've worked with that also with the Boys and Girls Club, who have always been a great partner in trying to help us put that together. Something that I'm very passionate about as the after school ambassador is Lights On After School. Lights On After School this next year is going to be on October 20th. It's usually the third Thursday in October, and Fall Into Place is usually the summit that the New Mexico Out of School Time Network hosts during that time also. So look out for that. During this time, it's an opportunity to highlight what after-school programs are doing across the state of New Mexico. Pat Mora, New Mexico author Pat Mora, actually from Santa Fe, has something very similar called El Día de los Niños, Día de los Libros. It's called Children's Day, Book Day. It's introducing the importance and recognizing the initiative and the importance of literacy of all ages from kids of all backgrounds. And the website offers some Steam downloadable material. So I'm always very happy to be able to offer that. One of the things that I really liked about one of my favorite partnerships was with Rio Grande Education Collaborative along the banks of the Rio Grande River, where we presented ghost stories, so in luminarias for literacy. So there are a lot of great programs. You can do a lot of those, but I know that Janice mentioned Read Across America. Yes, I will be participating in that, and I will actually be participating with Linda Sopavita. She's on this somewhere, and she hosts the New Mexico Youth Podcast Community. And I know that she shares the youth voice and highlights how our community invests in young people. So being able to get them to help us do this and offer this celebration. Linda, if you don't mind, if you want to put some information in the chat about the Dr. Seuss celebration, maybe you can bring it into the virtual world. And she does lots of wonderful things. So check that out. Finally, I did want to mention, and I forgot to show you some of the books that I usually use as far as what we do with Read Across America. I love to highlight the fact that this was Dr. Seuss's very first book. A lot of people don't know that. We also visit with Explora's information across the state, the free little libraries. I know it's an important thing to do right now because libraries were not open. So I found the opportunity to take bilingual books across the state with the help of the New Mexico Latinas and the New Mexico Hispanic Cultural Center. And finally, in 2003, I submitted a proposal and received the prestigious Annie E. Casey Award for talking books at the Boys and Girls Club. And during this time, it was only one of 2 public libraries, as I mentioned, but we also won the Tarani Syrup Art on Labels Award. And we also have one for Lights On After School. I think in 2014, I believe, the national poster. And so these connecting STEAM and making it STEM and making it STEAM by adding arts is always very important. Programming is very important. I know 2 years ago, right now, our senator in DC, Ben Ray Lujan, had mentioned at the legislature that one of his goals was to help after-school programs because he was an after-school kid and he would like to get broadband in school buses. So I called him out on that again and sent it out to him. And hopefully those buses can go into all these sites as mobiles, as bookmobiles, and use the Wi-Fi that is really needed right now. Thank you very much. And right now, I'm proud to introduce Jackie Thornton, who's one of our partners. And so, Jackie, take it away. Are you out there? Is Jackie on board? I know it's getting on.
I'm not seeing Jackie in the attendee list.
Okay, he told me he was going to log on. He was having some problems. So
okay.
Once again, one of the things, and I'll just mention briefly in case he pops in, the Boys and Girls Club was established back in 2000 with some grants, and they were in a Kwanzaa hut, and they were building a new library. And one of the things I proposed was, at the time I was coaching basketball there, and I asked them, well, can I go ahead, instead of having just a one-room little corner where there's books, can we just establish a library here? And so I did get some funding, and we did get it authorized to where the city of Farmington was supporting it in the city of Farmington building. So it was a perfect win-win. Some of the things that he does is have a wonderful garden outdoors that he partners with 4-H. So some of you libraries out there, if you want to start a community garden, contact your local 4-H or the New Mexico State 4-H program, and they can help you do that. And it's been very productive. I know he said this last year he had to take care of a lot of it himself, but I said, well, then you had a lot of stuff. He was able to give it away at the free lunch program. So free lunch programs are available across the state for after school programs as well. So check into that. You can always talk to Mai about that. Our Boys and Girls Club in the library is funded by the city of Farmington. It is a branch library, but not considered a branch library to the New Mexico State Library because it is exclusively only for the Boys and Girls Club. But what we like to do is we like to reach out to the kids that are in the program, because many of them do not make it to the library for after school programs or to be able to work on homework. So I'll go ahead and stop with that because Jackie had so much more to say, but I definitely wanted to make sure that everyone knew that if you have an after school program, create a library somehow, even if it's just a bookshelf. So thank you so much. And now I'd like to introduce some other friends. I didn't want to talk the whole time. It didn't seem like it since I talked so much, but I have some wonderful friends from WOW. It used to be called the New Mexico Land of Enchantment Mobile Unit, and they were lifesavers in coming to our library. And right now they are WOW. So Heidi and Katie, will you jump in?
Hi, Flo. Thank you so much. And thank you to New Mexico Out of School Time for letting us participate in the discussion today. So my name is Heidi Heidgerken, and I'm an instructional coordinator with the Wonders on Wheels Mobile Museum. And
I'm Katie Doyle. I am also an instructional coordinator with the Wonders on Wheels Mobile Museum.
so we're gonna, I'm gonna share my screen with a little bit of a presentation. So I think a few of you are actually really familiar with what Wonders on Wheels is, but for those of you that aren't, I'm just going to talk a little bit about what the program was designed to be. Oops, I think I lost it. Can you see that? And
Yes, we can see it. It's not there. It's in slideshow now.
there we go. Okay. So actually, Wonders on Wheels, the mobile museum program from the New Mexico Department of Cultural Affairs. And we are actually a 38-foot RV with about 300 square feet of exhibition space inside. So we are incredibly small. And we have a exhibit installed from a curated exhibit from one of our New Mexico State museums. Some of our past exhibits have included the century of dinosaur century from the New Mexico Museum of Natural History. Oops, I'm going to take this off. And then also the sharing the wonders of our world from the Museum of Indian Arts and Culture. And then we had the Galaxy of Wonders from the New Mexico Space History Museum. So we actually are a free program, which is really important right now. And in 2019, we did welcome about 18,000 visitors on board. And then we also had about 12,000 of those visitors that were children. So when we go to a location, we actually provide educational programming, both to schools, libraries, and educational organizations and events. So with schools, our program is structured maybe, or is a little bit more structured. And we have an exhibit tour along with a hands-on exploration that we offer. And then with libraries and educational organizations, we offer kind of a come and go exploration of the exhibits, and then a hands-on activity to complement. And you can see here, this is the interior, so you can see how small we are, but we can actually do quite a bit being small. So this is Jamie facilitating, and then over here we have the drawers and display cases, and then we also have touchable items that we put out so that children get a chance to actually touch and explore some of those items. And so we also partner with libraries, we partner with the Aztec Library and their Boys and Girls Club program. And so over here on the left is a student making pinch pots from our We're Still Here, Sharing the Wonders of Our Wheeled exhibit. And so this was offered as a kind of a special program between the library and the Boys and Girls Club. They sent groups of students over to the van from the Boys and Girls Club, and then we also welcomed visitors from the Aztec Library. And then over here, just so you can see, this is another example of one of our hands-on activities that we can supply. And so we're at the Cimarron Library, actually a bookmobile, and we're making and launching straw balloon rockets. And we're a traveling exhibit, so we have to be careful with the materials that we don't have a lot of space on the RV, but we can still do a lot. So even with limited space and limited materials, we can still have a lot of fun. And so you can see here the exhibit, and we're prepared. We know that it's difficult sometimes for space when it comes to hosting another educational program, and so we're prepared to be outside. We've actually been in cafeterias, we've been in hallways, so we try to be really flexible. And then, so this is a little bit about what the program was. And then we installed in 2020 in the winter an exhibit from the Museum of International Folk Art, and it was Musica Buena, celebrating music in New Mexico. And then we were on the road for about 2 weeks, and COVID-19 hit. And so we, like so many of you with educators and teachers throughout the world, really, we had to find ways to translate our program into the virtual. And so Katie's going to talk a little bit now about what we do now.
Thank you, Heidi. So yeah, like Heidi mentioned, the virtual pivot was kind of a little bit bonkers. You know, we found ourselves kind of all of a sudden living through our computer screens and trying to like reach out to people and make meaningful connections and be able to provide alternative education, alternative hands-on activities through a screen. So at first we were like, oh, we should make some presentations, we should put some videos on YouTube. But, you know, obviously there is only so far that the internet can reach, especially here in New Mexico. And we have a lot of communities that our program serves specifically that have limited broadband and internet access. And so we kind of started doing some other backflips around that challenge. And working with the entire New Mexico Department of Cultural Affairs, educators came together and started brainstorming and collaborating to create a mail-out kit initiative. So we started working our network of tribal rural libraries and librarians, and Eli Gannay with the State Library also collaborated with us on this kit initiative. So you'll see here on the left-hand side, there is a photo of a couple of materials, you know, and that could come together to make a shaker or a maraca. So we sort of translated and distilled the exhibition into this activity. So this is actually one of 3 activity kits that we offer right now. But things that were very important to us were making sure that the exhibition translated in some capacity. So with these kits, we sent out images of some of the objects and artifacts in the van. And then we also sent out a quick little instruction packet for students, learners, and parents or guardian entities that would be doing these activities with these learners at this time. And then along with the kit, we also sent out comment cards to figure out, you know, how did this go? How did this work for you? Did you have a good time? Was it easy to use? And these were all things that were very important to us to make sure that we were able to somewhat effectively translate the learning space to someone's kitchen or living room or, you know, corner of the house with a desk. So things that were important were making sure that the instructions were clear and concise, that people could have an opportunity to provide us with feedback, which I already touched on, and then also making sure that the materials in each kit were accessible and easy to use, that learners would not need to find or locate additional materials or tools to complete this activity. So Heidi tracked down this really fantastic green tape that's super easy to rip without using scissors. And we pre-cut a lot of our materials ahead of time, and pre-portion out our materials. So we have Shaker Maker right now, and then not pictured is a craft stick harmonica, which is made out of tongue depressors and rubber bands. And then you'll see in just a minute a straw oboe, which is just a soda straw and a piece of paper and some more of this green tape. So super duper easy to do, super duper easy to replicate at home also, if you have like a large family. And these were distributed through the bookmobile, through the combined efforts of the bookmobiles, state libraries across the state. And just average humans also driving them out to tribal checkpoints and dropping them off, and then at free lunch distribution sites as well. And then now that we have, if we could pop to the next slide, now that we're in the school year and we're visiting people's virtual classrooms, we continue to provide the kits at a limited capacity, just because there's only so many. It's just, oh man, it sucks. There's just only so many kits that we are capable of making and Benny Hilling around. I live in Albuquerque. Heidi and Jamie, my coworkers, both live in Santa Fe. So usually when we're making a kit, we like plan a day. Heidi is the mastermind. We pick up the materials at a delivery location, and then they all get organized, and then I drive up. It's a whole thing. And so right now we have like a store, we have a solid inventory, and we're able to work with folks to set up classroom visits and out of school visits that involve the kits. But then, there's the time and preparation that goes into that. We've also been collaborating with the Museum of International Folk Art and with varying libraries off of the I-40, I-25 corridor to create a virtual concert series for evenings more geared toward families, so that families can spend some time together, either around like the tablet, the laptop, the smart TV, or even a phone on the kitchen table. And then here is that image of the straw oboe. I had some trouble with mine, so you can see me struggling a little bit on the right there. But we did the straw oboe activity in conjunction with the Bosque del Apache Crane Festival, and we've been doing customized programs with varying educational organizations in order to kind of meet in the middle with the mission and the requirements that we have with Música Buena, and the mission and requirements that an organization might have. So here we talked a little bit about cranes and about bird songs and bird calls, and we connected that with human mimicry, our tendency to, we just love repeating things, and then also repeating things through the engineering of instruments. So there was a little bit of like tasty STEM, STEAM, bio crossover there. So we'll take a peek at the next slide. And then obviously, all of these things are, we're here for you. We're here to help you guys adapt. We're here if you want us to just like send you some kits, or if you have better web support, we're happy to visit your out of school time program, and even work together on doing some kind of customized hybridized program like what we did with Bosque del Apache. So these are our email addresses. Jamie couldn't be here with us today, but you can see her on the left there, and in a couple other images. And then check out our webpage. It is small, but it does give you a little bit more information about who we are, what we do, where we go, in the past, not in the present. And then there's also below that is a URL to the DCA Educates page, which is where you can actually place an order for a DCA educator to come and visit your program. So not all DCA education initiatives have that out of school time component, but many of them do. And a lot of folks are really more than happy to work with you to find something that works or that can work to meet in the middle there. And I'll put those links in the chat.
Oh,
Excellent.
all right. Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Oh,
Thank you. Oh, go
yeah.
ahead. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say one of the important things is we are available as support for programming, and we really are willing to be as flexible and creative as necessary to work together to come up with a program. Virtual or kits as well, which is really important right now. We also want to give people the hands-on learning experience and really support their social emotional development. So yeah.
Something that, and thank you both so much for being here today and presenting. This is good stuff. And one of the things that consistently impresses me about the out of school time community in New Mexico is how adaptable, how flexible they are, and how quickly they adapted to the pandemic circumstances to create take-home worksheets, to create kits, to create virtual learning, distance learning opportunities, et cetera, et cetera. And it sounds like you're yet another organization that is incredibly flexible and creative in developing and delivering materials and programs and supports for after school and so forth. So thank you so much. Let's see, we do have a quick question here. Is there a mobile unit in Las Cruces, New Mexico?
You know, we travel throughout the state, but we are actually the only one right now available from the Department of Cultural Affairs. There may be one that I'm not aware of, but we do travel to Las Cruces when we are traveling. And so that was actually where we were right before the pandemic.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very cool.
I'd like to add to that,
go ahead.
to Las Cruces. One of the things that I do is I do travel across the state, and I do participate in the growers markets. And Las Cruces has a wonderful growers markets, and I always do Campo de Leer. So I set up a booth there during the summer months to give away free books through First Book and through a program called Reforma de Nuevo Mexico. So come and see me at the Makers Market or at the downtown market. And it might not be mobile, but I am after school also. And if I'm in the area and you contact me, I'll be happy to stop by and see what I can do for you.
Fantastic, thank you. And we do have another question that I think is specific to one program, but is also can be made generic. This is from Cherry Birch, who is one of the main people involved with the New Mexico Tech Track that's put on by the American Association of University Women each year. And she says when, excuse me, when our 1 week camps are held this summer, it's important that our widely spread middle school girls have Zoom access for as many as 8 hours a day. Could libraries maybe help us with being inclusive for perhaps 1 or 2 girls in their area? And who should we contact when we find out what our needs are? And I know that the libraries have limitations with bandwidth, as we experienced with Valerie earlier, but they may have a little bit better bandwidth and technology than people have in their homes. So yeah, maybe can a couple of people talk to whether or not libraries can help support technological access to other virtual programs from the library?
This is Janice. Yes, I think that we have the capabilities here to help them a little bit. Like I said, my library, and I think there's a couple of other libraries that do circulate Wi-Fi hotspots and Chromebooks. So I think that could be possible. And then some libraries do have appointment only, so they're able to allow maybe just one person come in at a time. So we just need to work on it and figure out how it's going to work and see what needs. So I would recommend just getting in contact with the libraries. If it's tribal libraries, I think, right now we have the New Mexico Tribal Libraries Program, which is based at the state library. The Tribal Libraries Coordinator, the position is vacant, but the Development Bureau is still hosting that. So that will be through the New Mexico State Library, Dale Savage. So he has access to the Tribal Libraries listserv. So that's one of the ways to get in touch with us. Or the website has, I think, some contact information on there. So we'll have to see if it's updated.
Okay, so if we can contact the Library Association for whatever towns we're talking about, they will be rural. They may not be tribal, but they will be rural.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
You have a link that you could drop into the chat, Janice?
Yes, I'll go ahead and put it in there.
Thank you so much. We have a question from Kathy Price. Have any of you done any work in Dulce or Cuba communities?
I know Wonders on Wheels, we have been to Dulce and Cuba Elementary School there. And then we've worked with Rose at the library in Dulce, as well as the elementary school, I think. Anyone?
Excellent. Does anyone?
I did want to mention too that one of the things that through Reforma, one of the things that we've been going after is setting up a free little library across the state. So one of the places is out in the Apache Reservation out in the Dulce area. So that's something that we've been looking at. And so being able to reach out to the community, yes. And Kathy, thank you. I should have mentioned you how wonderful partnership you were with Primetime Family Literacy when we wrote those grants together for 21st Century Community Learning Centers to do it at your school where you retired from, but also in all the work that she does with STEAM in our community. So thank you guys, and definitely contact our libraries.
Yeah, I think it's important for OST programs to remember libraries as a resource and as a potential partner. I think they're a fantastic resource for, especially for literacy programs, but way beyond that, way beyond just literacy. There's just so many great opportunities there that I think more OST programs should try to leverage. Oh, and thank you. Flo dropped in what is that website? Reforma New Mexico.
It's called Reforma de Nuevo Mexico. It's actually a branch. It's 39 chapters in the nation, and this one reaches out to the Spanish speaking. So it's perfect for New Mexico. It's one of 39 chapters in the nation, and that hails out of Las Cruces. And that's the program that I travel across the state with, as well with New Mexico Out of School Time programs.
Fantastic. Okay, well, thank you. Thank you so much to all our presenters. We have like 2 more minutes. So if anybody has any last minute questions, feel free to unmute yourself and just go ahead and blurt them out, and we'll get somebody to respond.
Yes, this is mine. I want to thank everybody for such wonderful presentations. I want to do a library tour once the COVID pandemic is over. And certainly we want to be an advocate for out of school time in the library space. And I think Valerie's point of this being safe, leadership skills, serving children with disabilities, and the need to collaborate across the state is critical. So my question to all of you, or one of you, whoever wants to answer, is how can the network support you in expanding and strengthening your reach? I know you talked about buildings and physical needs of, not having rain come in and all this physical building needs. And then of course we have the outreach to families and children, but when knowing en most, how can you recommend that we play a role in supporting you moving forward?
I can quickly just add that maybe at Fall Into Place, create a little track that has at least something with library resources or librarians in after school.
Great idea. That's a great idea.
I agree with Flo. Like I stated, I went in and I really don't have a library background, but for me, libraries were always a place I went to, even out of town college. Any place I went, the library was a place I would visit. So recognizing the library as a place, and with what Flo said. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Valerie. Well, don't hesitate to reach out to Jeff and myself, for the future. And whenever you have something that you would like to disseminate also to the larger audiences, we're more than happy to help in that capacity.
And one final thing that I wanted to say is that especially for a lot of like rural areas and some of the tribal areas, one of the big barriers to participation in out of school time activities is transportation, because the programs are often at significant distance from the town center, or from the center of life in the community. And libraries are very often much more centrally located, like Valerie said, right across the street from her house. And so that's another reason to support libraries, is they can provide more proximate locations to host these kinds of programs. And by providing some additional funding to improve the facilities and the broadband access, and to help get the professional development and curriculum development opportunities for these incredibly dedicated professionals, it's just a fantastic opportunity, especially for our rural children. So. Thank you all once again. We really appreciate you being here. We did record. We'll have to do a little snipping of all of the early arrivers at the beginning, so there's not 15 minutes of just me and Flo yakking or something like that. And then once we get that, we'll post it to our New Mexico After 3 p.m. Series page, along with, I'll try to put up PDF versions of the presentation materials and collect the links that were dropped into the chat box during the presentation and put those up there as well. So give us, maybe till early next week, but we'll get that all posted. So thank you once again. Really appreciate it. Have a great finish to your week and a fantastic weekend coming up.
Bye, everybody.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.